Good.
Which one?
The screening.
All set? Okay. Welcome to the April 23rd, 2018 Board of Selectmen's meeting. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Schofield, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. What do we have this evening? So citizen statements and petitions. Okay.
I just had a question. So about a month ago after our staff meeting, one of the things we talked about, and I think I sent an email, was renaming the old Taft Library. So I'm curious, I mean, obviously we don't want to make a decision tonight, but what would be the appropriate process to do that, to give it some sort of a name other than calling it the old library or that, I mean, I think people are getting confused.
I think this is a frustrating topic. I thought we had been there, done that, but maybe not.
I don't know, or maybe, I don't know. I don't know if there's been an official decision made is the only thing.
No. I don't even remember discussing it here at this.
You must have a policy in place for when people want to name parks, correct? Did anyone ever come forward?
Yeah, they come to parks, we say that sounds awesome, and we vote on it.
Hey, funny, that's just what we do.
I mean, there's the suggestion that's being floated is the Rosa Taft Municipal Building.
Yeah,
I know it's been
isn't that
discussed
the same exact
by
name we
historic.
discussed before? There was a whole email trail on this.
Yeah, and then I never
we've
came to
never
a meeting.
discussed it, and some alternative suggestions were also presented.
Okay.
So we've never had it at a meeting, and we've never had like a nomination process.
How much different to that name of the other ones?
I know, I think, Mark, you had a different idea.
Well, my concern is that you call it the Rosa Taft Municipal Building. People are going to shorten it, and they're going to call it the Taft Municipal Building, and now you have Taft Library and Taft Municipal Building, and I'm just worried there's going to be confusion on which building are we going to, you know, I don't know. I just thought two buildings with Taft could cause an issue.
Can you Mrs. Vandenberg, I'm getting text messages from home saying they can't hear it, there's no volume. I don't know if you can do something about that. Sorry.
That's it. My other,
Said the Union
I think
Chapel,
the Union
which is
Chapel.
what it was before, it was the library.
Yeah, and there was, I know I had mentioned that to Kathy Schofield, brought it to some people in historic, and they said, well, it really wasn't the Union Chapel for very long, and so.
Well, the other problem with that is that it was the Taft family that donated the building, so it'd be nice to retain the name. But, okay, so if there's multiple, then maybe Mr. Burke, I could suggest just put it on our next meeting and give us all the ones that have been submitted so far.
Well, I think we should actually ask people. I mean, we've had one sort of internal email chain, and if there might be outside suggestion from the public about what it should also
I guess we could make a bureaucracy out of it.
just possibly asking for suggestions.
For me personally, I'm open to any suggestion. Did the Historical Commission weigh in on this? I didn't read any of that email chain, so.
I don't know if they formally voted on it, but a lot of the members were on the thread and seemed to be in favor of it, but I don't know if they've made a formal
The
legal
Rosa
decision.
Taft building, the one you mentioned.
So that, I don't know how far you want to get into it. So Rosa Taft purchased that building from the church, donated to the town to be a library. She is different than the Taft the library is named after. That is a different generation of Tafts. I mean, they're all Tafts, but.
I don't have an issue with,
Yeah,
I'm not going to oppose the
Yeah.
name of it, but I'm just saying, you know, do we want two buildings named Taft? You know, I think that from my standpoint, I'd be interested to hear from the Historical Commission. I'd be interested in hearing the different ideas. I mean, me personally, I think I'd be looking for a recommendation and just.
Maybe we could like get someone to write something about it that says the town, right, is looking for possible recommendations. Email to any person in the town, and we will gather
I
them.
wonder who could write that in maybe a paper or something.
Some person.
I'm not raising my hand to write it.
If you want, I can post something online and see if people get
You
suggestions.
could put a poll.
At the risk of
One second, Mr. Byer.
getting
Yeah.
all the.
Mr. Byer.
How about if you like just prepare a little bit of the history of it, put it on a piece of paper, hand it out at the annual town meeting, so at least people coming in there will get a copy of it. They can talk amongst themselves, give them a like 2-week deadline. Hey, on such and such a date, the Board of Selectmen is going to be making a decision. If you have suggestions, send us an email and tell us what they are. We'll put them together, we'll discuss it. If you want to come to the meeting and have your input, do it. You know, you must have a meeting coming up sometime after the election.
I'd love to have one of the school kids take it on as a project and write
We're running out of time.
write an essay. Yeah, that's true. Write an essay. Well, I mean, there's no rush to change the name either.
Well, I think
if we wanted to push
the
it off.
concern is just with meeting postings, different boards are doing different things, and it's
Sure.
getting a little, I know it's kind of, Town Annex is the other name,
The town hall annex.
That's decidedly
Yeah.
but
sanitary.
What do you guys want to do? I don't care either way.
I think we should do what Mr. Bias said.
That's fine. Okay, so somebody will, who wants to write that up and hand it out at the,
I think I heard Dan,
well, that's generous of you. Thank you, Dan.
I guess.
very much.
Well, I mean,
I thought I heard his dad say he was gonna help you
it
too.
would be great to
I
get a
think you
recommendation
misheard.
from historic.
I'll bug her to see if they can get it, if they can formally vote, that would be nice.
I
know
think
the
it would be good to have a
society has
vote from
talked
this.
about it.
But, I mean, if it goes out, we've got some time before town meeting, I mean, names could come in,
Yeah.
and they'll have a couple of options.
I would really like the opinion of the historic commission either way, so,
Yeah, I believe they've talked about it.
yeah. Should they do a formal vote on it though? And
I thought I had an email
I
from,
think they did, but
yeah, I think they
Okay.
did.
let's check with him.
Actually, I haven't
Okay.
talked to her in a while.
All right, cool. All right,
Thanks.
thank you. Any other citizen statements or petitions? All right, hearing none, seeing none. All right, adoption of previous meeting minutes. Take a motion, Mark.
I move to adopt the meeting minutes of 8/23/17, 11/20/17, 2/26/18, and 3/12/18.
Second.
Any discussion on those?
No.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Correspondence to the board. Laura, any correspondence to the board? No correspondence to the board, checking them right off. All right, discuss the Trask property. Who wants to come up and discuss the Trask property?
Can I move this chair?
Brought out the big guns tonight, huh?
Answer questions.
Whoever said there was no sound, could they like check again and see if it's fixed itself or?
You want to grab a chair?
Hello again. I just want to reintroduce myself. I'm Bob Mangiarati, working with Murphy, Hesse, Toomey, and Lehane. Our town council is with that firm. As you know, I was town council here a few years ago. I retired, but I came back to work part-time for Murphy, Hesse. So I've been asked to sort of help out with this Trask land transaction, and I hope I can be useful.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I was just going to kind of give you some background on the property. We have some maps. This is a map that just sort of shows you where the property is. And it's like 3 parcels off of Trask Road, which is off of Hopedale Street. Do you know where that is?
Is that little side street when you get down to the bottom of the hill?
You go up North Ave and
North
then
Ave,
take
down
a right
Hopedale.
before Misco,
Yeah, and then go down the hill,
and then
it's on the
your
left.
left. Right.
Okay.
Pat, they can hear now.
Sweet.
And the property is around like 65 acres. And Harvey Trask donated the property to the town. But it has a life estate on it. There's a person that lives in a house on the property. And the trust says that he can stay in the property until he dies. And then the town would get the property. It also has in the trust that he wouldn't pay taxes, which would be a problem, and we'll talk about that later, but we think that we can solve that. The property would be restricted to like open space, recreation facility, or like a school. And if the town refuses or doesn't accept the donation, then it goes to the trustees of reservation. where they can dispose of the property in, you know, however they
I'm
want
sorry,
to.
it goes to what?
The Trustees of Reservation, it's a nonprofit group. Yeah. So Dan, Patrice Murphy, and we walked the property about 2 weeks ago, and it's a really nice piece of property. It has nice open space, it has core habitat from Biomap 2. It has like a lot of historic features, it has like thousands of feet of stone walls. There's an old watering hole on a cart path where horses used to drink from, which is kind of cool. And it's also, mostly it's upland property, so it's not really that wet. It has wet areas, but, you know, it's 65 acres. And has good potential for sports fields. It's located near Misco. And, you know, in the future, it could be for a school. That's, you know, so just maybe, you know, 20 years from now, who knows what the town might need. Do you want to, and so we thought that it was definitely a donation that the town should accept. Do you want to, anything else that?
Sure, no, it's a beautiful piece of land. The person who's living there is quite active in mowing the fields, and he was also doing some selective cutting, so the forest is really nice, a nice area, not a lot of invasives or anything like that. Got to see great horned owl.
Wow.
Good day.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, that's right. But it's a really nice property. So this is an aerial view of it. You wanna just pass that around?
It is annoying, isn't it?
It's just divided into different parcels.
If we didn't accept this group that it would go back into, do they have to pay taxes?
No, they don't if they kept
So no
it.
matter what we do, we're not getting any taxes on this land.
Well, you can go.
I was brought in because it's kind of complicated in that the town doesn't have the authority to waive taxes for the life tenant. So did you give the selectmen this copy of the clause?
No.
I suggest you take a look at it. It's kind of an unusual provision in a trust. It says, there's this land, I'll give it to the town of Mendon, but it says, subject to a life estate in Jeffrey Gagner, if living at the time of his death, for the rest of the remainder of Gagner's life, without paying rent, occupancy fee, or real estate taxes. So we, the town of Mendon, and no other city or town has the authority to waive taxes. So if he's living there, he has to pay taxes. So you've got a problem where ordinarily when you have someone who has a life tenancy, somebody lives in a house for the balance of their life, they still pay taxes. And then,
Okay, I'm going to interrupt you quickly, only because I actually don't care about that part of it, right? Because that's true whether we accept it or not, right? Because he gets to live there whether we accept the property or not. What I want to know is on the rest of the property that's not occupied by this gentleman, does somebody have to pay taxes on that property if we don't accept the
well,
see my point?
yeah, except no, it's not the way it's divided up.
Okay.
All 60 acres, he has a life estate on. He doesn't have a life estate just on the house. He has a right to occupy, possess, and have all incidents of ownership of the entire 50 or 60 acres. So nobody's gonna, according to the trust, nobody's gonna pay taxes on it as long as the life tenant lives. We can't do that. So if we had, I would recommend as your counsel, we really can't accept a gift like that. But because it's a desirable piece of land, it's in proximity to other resources of the community, we're gonna try to work something out with your blessing, of course, with your authority, with the life tenant. So that one thing that we envisioned was that if the life tenant and the town, through the Board of Selectmen, enter into a side agreement that says, we are going to direct the trustee of the trust, telling the trustee that Mr. Life Tenant waives his right to his life tenancy on the bulk of the land, 50 acres or so. And so then that way, he doesn't have any rights to possess that, and that becomes town-owned property. We, on the other hand, have to give him something in exchange, and we could say, we'll waive our remainder interest. That is, you can own this piece of land, 5 acres or whatever it is, pertinent to the house. You can own that outright, because we'll waive our remainder of this under the trust. And we've had informal discussions with the trustee and the trustee's attorney, and they said, yeah, that would work, only if the life tenant agrees to it, and that we haven't really accomplished that meeting of the minds, primarily because you have to buy into this.
But why would we want to do that? Suppose we just said, okay, you know what, fine, we'll accept the gift, right? And you live there, and you pay us taxes on the entire thing until you die, and then...
Yeah, except that, in my opinion, that would be a violation of the gift conditions. Mr. Trask said, I will give you this on this condition, if and only if you let this life tenant live there without paying taxes. So I'm telling you, in my opinion, I don't think you can accept that condition. So you say to the donor, we don't accept that condition, we're gonna reject the gift. So we don't get any land. Do you follow?
Yeah,
Up
I'm
until
not
that point.
upset, I'm not upset about that, but go ahead, keep going.
Well, I mean, so, yeah, your options, in my view, are you can reject the gift and say, we're not gonna take the gift because we can't accept the condition that this life tenant can live there for the rest of his life tax-free. We don't have power to do that. So that's one option. It's not especially desirable because you don't get land, which as I said before, seems like a desirable piece of land according to your representative. So then we have to work out this side deal with Mr. Gagner, his name is, where it says, you can have this outright, and we have all of this outright, and you pay taxes on this. That's the new deal. So the trustee says, I'll set it up the way you want it, and we, in a side deal, say, we've agreed that Mr. Life Tenant is gonna own this piece where his house and barn is outright, and we release our right to the remainder. In other words,
Forever?
forever.
Can I stop you there real quick?
Well, it's just, first of all, but let me just this is just an idea.
No, I understand, I have a question about that idea. So if this gentleman decided to do that, Bob, would that mean that we would have direct access to the back parcel immediately?
Yes, Ann and her team have come up with a scheme to divide up the land so that we would have ample access off of Trask Road. Is that right?
Yeah.
So it could be accomplished, but there's a lot of ifs. You have to approve exploring the concept, and then the life tenant has to agree to it, and then the trustee has to agree to it, and probably even the trustees of reservation might have to at least sign off on it.
Yeah, this is a blow-up of what his lot would
Oh,
look
this right
like.
here?
Right.
I
So
gotcha,
it's-
yeah.
So the town would have all that access, the frontage, and then they
Yeah.
can come in this way.
So how would they access it, Ann?
So this is Trask Road.
Yep.
And then the town would own this. You could go like that, or you could go like that.
Okay, so either way, you're going adjacent to his property to access the back. Okay.
Seems like a lot of work to own more land we don't need anyway.
Well, I think, but you're looking short-term. And first of all, it's a really nice piece of property, and it wouldn't cost the town anything. Open space is less expensive than residential.
Yes, it would, we're gonna give up the right to property taxes on the piece that's not improved.
Yeah, but you're,
You're not gonna get it
right
anyway.
now, you're not, the taxes aren't that high, just because it is a 61B property. But open space, it doesn't cost the town anything, whereas residential does. And if it,
We've debated this before, that
well,
depends. Yeah,
multiple,
that depends.
multiple studies show that, so.
So tell me, on this particular, have you done the calculation to compare if we implement the solution as Attorney Mangiarotti mentioned, where we just outright give him the piece in the middle and then he pays taxes on that, and then the tax value that we've given up on the other 58. Do we know how much that is?
Yeah, I mean, right now they pay around 11,500, and then if it was just the house, he would pay 6,000, so it would be 5,500 maybe, less.
Yeah, that's it.
But there's another,
Hey, Mr. Schofield, could I just
Yes.
mention one thing? The trust provision that we've given you says that if the town doesn't take the land, it goes to the trustees of reservation. Now, and the trustees of reservation can do what they want with it, so they could sell it if they sold it to private parties that would go back on the tax rolls. But I think they're a tax exempt, they are a tax exempt organization.
Right, so until that happens, we're not getting any tax.
We're not getting any tax, so they could, you know, if it fit into their program of land conservation, they could decide to keep it. I don't know what their thinking is. If they sell it, then we're gonna eventually get taxes.
Okay, so, but just so anybody listening understands, if that comes off the tax rolls, whatever amount, let's say it's 5,000, let's say it's 6,000, just to round it up, right? So that 6,000 doesn't disappear, we still get the 6,000 to spend, it's just that everybody else's taxes go up by enough to make up the 6,000, right? So I just wanna make sure that that's clear, that that's what happens when stuff comes off the taxes like this.
The other thing also about this property is if you look long-term, at some point, the town might need a school. So they wouldn't have to buy property. I mean, it's assessed at like $350,000, but would be worth more than that.
First thing I did when I saw this is I called Joe Maruschek, and he was decidedly uninterested in doing anything on this property.
I think
Right.
it's worth noting, maybe not now, I know before Clough was done, I believe they looked at trying to convince Mr. Trask to sell the land, and he wasn't interested. I think the potential is maybe, in 30, 40, 50 years, it would be nice to have this lot of land that's perfect for a new school versus it's, 30, 40 houses.
Isn't that what we bought the property over here for? We got a third of it is municipal.
Could be.
Why do we need another spot for a school?
Well, it doesn't cost the town anything. It's a very generous gift. It's worth a lot of money. It could be used for sports fields. A school eventually could go on it. It's beautiful open space. It's like, I mean, it's throwing away a lot of money, really, for the town. It's not being that fiscally responsible.
And
But
I don't think that way, but anyway, go ahead.
letting it go to trustees of the reservation, you may never collect taxes on it again.
I get that, yeah.
There's one other option too, that like, if, working with the trustee of the trust, saying that we accept the gift and the life tenant is on the property, but they pay taxes, and then when they die, the town gets it. That's another option, not doing a land swap, but just having him pay the taxes, and then when he dies, the town gets it. So, right.
Well, it's not like what you've shown here, it's not like it's right in the middle, right? It's just like no big deal if we never get it back, right? If we went that way, right? I mean, because it's not like in the middle of it, it's like on the edge of it,
Well,
right?
if we did the land swap, correct.
So he would be retaining about 10 acres, is that what it is?
Between 6 and 8,
Drawn, it's under 6.
yeah.
It's hard to judge by the, so Bob, you had said that there were 4, I thought I heard you say there was like 4 options. I heard 2. Actually, and then Ann brought up number 3. So 1 was to reject the gift. Number 2 was to do the side deal, where we would carve off 6 to 8 acres of land, whatever it is, and he pays the taxes on that, and we would take the rest. The third was to tell him we'll accept the gift, but he's going to pay the full taxes, right? That's what I
Right,
heard.
work
Which
out an
you didn't
arrangement.
think that we would be okay unless he agreed to that.
Right. Yeah, the second 2 options you've just mentioned are ones that it's critical that you get the life tenant to sign a contract.
Of course.
Agreeing to the terms and conditions.
Well, it sounds like
etc.
even the third option, so he would have to, it'd be
He would have
critical
to
for that
agree
too.
to it, right.
Yeah,
I like that option.
so he pays,
But what's in it for him? In other words, right
Free
now,
land.
huh?
Free
Right,
land.
well, right now, he thinks he might be able to get, I don't know, this isn't, I mean, he's thinking he's gonna be able to get to live there tax-free, and now he agrees to pay taxes. What was his motivation to do that?
yeah. And what's the 4th option? Was there a 4th option?
I don't think there was. I may have
Okay, so
misspoke
those are the
that.
3
I'm
options.
sorry if I did.
So the way that I understand it then, guys, this is to my select board here, is really what do we see the value of that land? Right? So the intrinsic value of that land would be either we continue on receiving the $11,000 in taxes and not accept the gift, right? Or
If he agrees to it.
if he agrees to, well, we don't have to, he doesn't need to agree to that if we decide to reject the gift.
Well, then it goes to a nonprofit, and we don't get
Right.
anything.
We don't get anything, right? So,
You don't have
I'm just
any-
trying to, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to weigh the options right here, guys.
Just to be.
Do you see what I'm saying?
And just to reiterate that there is a chance that the nonprofit could sell it for private property. We don't know. But, so it would be tax exempt as long as it was held by the nonprofit. But then if they were to sell it, then it would go back on your tax rate. Just so that you get it.
Now, could they sell it even if he's still living there? Is there a provision that keeps
Mr. Reel,
them?
that's, if you look at this trust instrument, it's kind of ambiguous as to whether or not the trustees of reservation would take it subject to a life estate. I don't know what it means. I've talked to the lawyer for the trust. He says probably he loses his life estate, but maybe not. I mean, this is the stuff of probate litigation, which I don't think we want any part of, but just so you know, the way this is worded is not especially clear about whether the life tenant would stay during the time that, if we rejected the gift. So I'm sorry to be so imprecise, but that's the truth.
I mean, the one thing about the way the will's written is that the life tenant, if it goes to trustees, he's in a lot more shaky ground because it really isn't clear. And whereas if he works with the town, he can stay there and have the life estate with that, whatever plan that we might go forward with. So the thing is there's like more talking and figuring out, talking with different people and figuring out what the best solution would be to, if we were going to keep the property. And like, we highly recommend that it's a really generous, good donation for the town to accept for now and for 50 years from now. I mean, it's property that can be, school, sports fields, or open space. And, we think it's worth working with the attorney and the life tenant to try to work out a solution that, first of all, Harvey Trask, his donation, it meets his wishes of what he wants to have done with the property for the life tenant. And those are the two, and the town.
Let me, Ms. Newman, you had a question?
Well, it was actually the same as Mr. Reel's, which was whether or not this person, what ground does he stand on if it goes to the trustees, which is,
Right,
it's in
that's
his
right.
interest to make a deal with the town in order to get this project done. So the likelihood of him accepting this division is high, but we don't have any idea what, even a guess, the percentages that he'd be removed from the parcel if we don't accept this.
Well, here's the language, and you all can put on your lawyer hat. It
I don't
says,
have one of those.
so it says that I give to the town of Mendon a bunch of land subject to a life estate. Next sentence, in the event that the town of Mendon refuses to accept this gift, then the donor directs this gift to be given to the trustees of reservation as aforesaid, to be used and disposed of as the trustees of reservation in its sole discretion deem appropriate. So the
They can do whatever they want.
That's what it sounds
Yeah,
like,
but the
right.
gift aforesaid is a gift subject to a life tenancy. But then the end of that sentence says you can do what you want with it. So, as I said, and I'm not alone in not being able to interpret that. As I say, I talked to the lawyer for the trust, and he wasn't sure of it. I think Kim's point is that I think an argument can be made that if you don't do business with us, the trustees are going to get it, and they can sell it out from under you. And I think that would not be a misleading argument. I think it's an argument that can be made. Is that where you were going?
Exactly. I wanted to know what our leverage points
So let me try to get back to some type of organization on coming up to a decision.
Well, what do we have to get to tonight? Was this just an introductory to this, or?
You have,
I think there was a
Cindy
motion.
Amara, your town council, who I'm working with, has put on your warrant through Kim.
That's right.
That's right, yeah.
An article that says, "We'll accept the gift on the terms and conditions acceptable to the selectmen." So if town meeting votes that, you still have to set the terms and conditions, and if the conditions can't be satisfied, then there's no gift.
Well, okay.
So I would say, this is your decision to make. And,
As long as the people don't say, no, you can't make it.
that's right.
Right.
Assuming that that article passes, then it's your decision.
It would be nice if we had the option that we wanted to, or the conditions that we wanted to accept it under for the town meeting, so, because I'm sure people have questions,
Yeah, if we want.
if we can. Well, right.
Or we could say that I mean, I don't, the risk is that if we're not prepared, they could say no, or we could say that we need more time to sort this out. You know, that's, I could go either way with that argument, but.
Yeah, I know, I'm not saying
Yeah.
that we have to,
Yeah.
I just put it out there.
Yeah. Jay, did you have a question?
Yeah, a couple. If I'm understanding what you're saying correctly, the property was willed to, gifted to the town with this life tenant. Currently, when Mr. Trask was alive, there was some tax revenue on the property, is that correct?
There still is.
Around 11,000. He doesn't, I don't think, have the authority in a will to say, okay, he doesn't have to pay taxes anymore, so even if you accept it and do nothing else, you're still gonna get the 11,000, correct?
No.
No.
How can he
Because I
write a will that says you're no longer taxable?
Well-
Yeah, see, that's my problem, right there.
He wrote a will that contained a condition that could not legally be carried out. So he said, I will give you this land if, and only if, you let Mr. Life Tenant live there tax-free. I mean, you know.
Right.
This is a very unusual.
So what I heard Mr. Mangiarotti say is that's why this deal we couldn't just accept it that
So
way.
you couldn't do that. So
Right.
I'm trying to put money to the actual equation here. So
That's
you
what I
have
was trying to
you have 11,000. So in essence, you accept the gift and do nothing, 11,000 goes away. If you work some kind of a side deal, it's about a 50-50 split maybe. You're going to get
Right.
5-6 grand in taxes.
I think it depends upon what you negotiate.
Well, right, you have to negotiate, but let's go with 50-50. So you're gonna get 5,000, you're gonna give up 5,000, but you get 55 acres of land. Or it could go to the reservation trustees, and for reasons that we don't know, he allows them to do anything they want. But the town can't accept the property and then sell it, is that correct?
Yeah.
Like the reservation, and only they can sell it.
Unless, I mean, if I may, unless we make this contract between the life tenant and the town, I would recommend not to accept the gift. But I think what town moderator, you still the town moderator?
Yeah. Yes, I am.
But not in this meeting, he's
The
not.
fastest town moderator I've ever met. But I think what he's trying to say is that, you know, there's a chance that we're not gonna get any taxes, because if it goes to the trustees, it may or may not go back on the tax rolls. Whereas if we work out a deal, we're at least gonna get taxes on the house and half the land.
And, well, if the trustees decide to sell the land, or can they not sell it until after the gentleman passes?
That was the question one of your selectmen asked, and we don't know the answer.
Okay, so the only other thing I would offer, speaking to need for the land, it is correct that right now, the school district has really no need for more land. I mean, we can always use more land, but we don't have any money to do anything with it. But I would tell you, in the next 20 to 30 years, Nisco Hill will have to be replaced. It's an old building already. It's not gonna last forever. Now, we're not.
Good thing we bought Taft Orchard then.
Well, if you want to talk about locations for schools, that one's bad. That would be great. You don't want to put a school on a busy street at the bottom of a hill when you can put it up in a place that's a little offset. It's right next to where there's a lot of land that the school district already owns, where you could have athletic fields and you have transportation issues when you're located like that. So it's a more appealing site. That may not be a reason to accept it, but it is a more appealing site.
So what I hear, so I'm gonna kind of stop that piece for now, because I want to try to take care of the business we need to take care of tonight, which is either we can take it as an update, and what do we do for town meeting, right? So are we prepared for town meeting to either make a recommendation to give to the taxpayers and have them decide if they want us to enter into negotiation on this or not? Or we just take the update and we wait till after town meeting, and then we debate that after and figure out our best strategy and if we want to move forward with it or not. Correct?
Yeah, it sounds like what we're saying, yeah.
Okay, what do you think?
Well, you want to go first?
I mean, I know where my position is, and I think we should accept the land and work out a deal to allow the trustee to live in the house and separate it out, get some tax revenue. We have property that's potentially used for active recreation, and I know that's been something that Parks has kind of needed over time, and I see this as a good opportunity. It's good property that has good potential use.
If the town were full of Rich Schofields, I would agree with Mr. Reel. The town is not full of Rich Schofields. So if it's just me, I'm saying, yeah, I want as much, open space land as we could have. Thankfully can afford that. Unfortunately, the realities of budget, and every year we come along with some other new little things, a little bit here, and a little bit here, and a little bit here, and a little bit here, that takes away from our financial flexibility to be able to do what we need to do. And we're still way behind on highway, and I would be good with it as long as we get the whole $11,000 in the interim. But if we gotta negotiate that away, then I'm not as good with it.
Yeah, and I don't even think we need to make a decision tonight. It's really just our direction for town meeting. Do we want to have a recommendation prior to town meeting or not? 1 second, because I had one more comment. The risk that we also have is that we could say, all right, option number 2, try to do a side deal with them, and he rejects it. They won't right back down to square one anyways.
Well, then, let's say town meeting says, yes, we give the selectmen the power to, accept the donation or not. Then if we can't work anything out, then the town doesn't accept the donation.
I understand that.
But can I just say one more thing, though? Also, if you want, before the town meeting, we could also continue to keep on, talking with the lawyer, the trustee, and, the tenant, so that we maybe, by the time the town meeting comes, have something more concrete also. Because we're just working through it right now and figuring out what we could do.
So, I'm sorry.
Even if town meeting allows us to accept the gift, we don't have to do it if we're not
That's what I'm
satisfied
saying.
with
Yeah, and I was gonna
the
say the same.
conditions.
Well, that's what I'm saying, so that's why we don't need to make a decision
Right.
tonight.
So I'm totally happy to go to the annual town meeting, the 3 of us supporting it potentially. As long as the option to potentially get all 11,000 in taxes there or some other creative solution, because we can decide later. So if that's what we go with, then I'm fine with going together with that.
And I think they should continue to work on, discussions with the landowner.
Yeah.
Well, it's important for me as your lawyer to understand that. You're comfortable with us continuing the conversation. I think it's a good idea, because if we can make some kind of a deal, then when you go to town meeting, you will be able to describe to the voters what you have in mind. If we can't make a deal, we may have a wholly different approach.
Right.
Yeah. Mr. Kent?
If we somehow get some of this land, is it required to be a recreational land, or could the town later just sell it?
The trust says, if I may,
Yes, please.
to be utilized as a park, recreation, and athletic facility. And then it goes on to say, the selectmen in their discretion may change the use of this property as a park and recreation facility to a school building site for a town of Mendon, Upton Regional School District. And then if we build a school on it, school construction on the property may be named the Elmer Kenneth Trask School.
That's all right.
All right, so I can tell you, when we were doing the Clough Memorial Project, Daniel referred to it, Harvey Trask was on the building committee, and he wanted to donate land to us to build a K-4 elementary school. And he wanted to give us the land across from that BVT athletic complex on Chestnut Street, which is a horrible site to put a school because of the way the road is. We tried to talk him into getting this piece of property, and he wouldn't do it at the time, because I guess it was where his mother grew up, and he wasn't going to do that, because that would have been an ideal location, because it's right next to Misco for an elementary school. His condition was the same. We had to name the school after his mother, and it had to have 4 pillars on the front of the building. I don't know if that's in there, but
The pillars aren't there anymore.
those were the 2 requirements that he put on. It's just never happened. We ended up doing what we did.
Okay, so listen, I'm fine with the direction that we're going in. And, I think what we heard, Bob, is we'll continue on moving forward. Obviously, the voters have a say in this and are May 5th meeting, so we'll see what they have to say that night, and we'll go from there. All right, May 5th.
4th, I think it's
4th, I'm sorry, May 4th, I apologize. Getting ahead of myself.
Let's see if we can make some progress, and we'll report to you either way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair, guys?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, so,
Everybody, thanks.
good to see you. Thank you.
What a surprise.
All righty.
Thank you.
Discuss Inman Hill.
Ann,
Okay.
are you around tomorrow?
What, I'm sorry,
Are
what?
you around at all tomorrow? Like, could I meet you and we could go down and you could show it to me?
Yeah, possibly. I don't know about tomorrow. Sometime, though, we could figure it out, okay? Yeah.
Okay, discuss Inman Hill Road property. So you have some updates.
So, the town bought the old Kelly Farm in the early 2000s. And, you know, Inman Hill Road, if you go to the top, there was 3 big parcels. It was about 96 acres, and the town owns it. And you can kind of see the green here. That's the property, all right? And then right here is this, the town cut out a parcel that's right on Inman Hill Road. And they tried selling it in, I think, 2004. And then for multiple reasons, it didn't get sold.
Is it at the very top, that
Close.
parcel?
It's
near
close.
the
It's
highway
not the very
boundaries, right?
top. It's like, no, it's lower down on the road. It's like 3/4 of the way up.
Okay.
And so as you're going up, it's on the right side. And so it's been sitting there. The housing market went down. And so I said to Kim, this is such a good time to sell that lot. It's less than 2 acres, but it's a building lot. And there was a septic plan that they did for the property. And so Kim said, go forward. So I have. And I've worked with town council. Put together an RFP, which you have to put in the central register, and you have to do legal notices, and then, I don't know, there's a whole bunch of things. You have the RFP. The RFP, though, the dates will be a little bit different because of the timing. You know, when you put it in the central register, you have to wait a month and everything. So,
So we're actually gonna sell a piece?
yeah. And we figured out the minimum cost between talking with appraisers, realtors, looking at the value, the assessor's value, and the fact that it abuts 500 acres of like open space. It's a nice property that 150,000 would be the minimum bid that someone could, you know, put on the property. And also it has a septic plan. It's all upland, there's no wetlands on it, you know, so. So I had a couple of things that I wanted you to like approve. And one is that the septic plan was done in like 2004, so we had to update it. So I worked with Fred Lapham at Shea Engineering, and he updated it, but there's a cost to that, so we need to pay for that. And Missy's holding on to the septic plan right now, and she needs payment so she can submit it to get it approved, so I'd like you to approve that. It's like $450.
Where's it coming out of?
I don't know, you have to tell me, and then I can submit a voucher for it, but I need to have that approved by the, you know.
I move to approve payment of the septic plan for the Inman Hill Road property in the amount of $450.
Happily seconded.
Any further discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Excuse me.
Okay. And this is sort of the schedule I was looking at, but I would need to post it this Wednesday, so if you guys could look at this and see if this makes sense.
Kim, who wrote this?
And the council.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, I actually used the RFP that we used for the Pearson, and then I, changed it, and then had town council look at it.
Yeah, no sense of reinventing the wheel.
Yeah.
And you did the property map again. I just want to see the lot. Just want to see the angle of the lot. Yeah, just because it doesn't show up that way on here.
I mean, it's just, it looks like that though, what you had right there, that's what it looks like, you know?
Yeah, well, just because on here you can't really pull up the lot, but if it's just straight back, it's not an L-shaped lot.
No, I mean, this is the shape of it, it's just, and it's, you know, it meets the requirements, it has the frontage and it has enough uplands and, has the right acreage. It's
Okay.
a nice lot for somebody, I mean, it's really,
So the question is, are we happy with the schedule? And then we have to approve the RFP.
yeah, and town council, I'm working with them, so I mean, you know, everything is accurate and,
I mean, for me, I mean, if you guys are telling me that the schedule's accurate, then I'm fine with it. You know, I don't know enough about the schedule to comment on it, so.
yeah, I mean, right, I mean, I would just,
Is a month enough time to sell a lot?
well, we would put legal notices in. I think also, you know, we could send out information out to all the realtors in town, let them know. I mean, it's not really much, they have to put a bid in it. I mean, the application, what do you think? We could do it longer, what do you
Well,
think?
I mean, we obviously want to receive as much as we possibly can for this lot. And
Thank you.
if 150 is the minimum or approximate value, I mean, I'm not trying to delay the process at all. I just want to make sure that we're giving it adequate time in order to get the maximum amount return that we possibly can get.
Okay.
And I just would wonder, just because we could get it, doesn't make it, if we get it up on the 2nd, that's great, but I just, award notice in June seems.
Okay.
Pretty aggressive.
Yeah,
I mean,
okay.
you'd only, I mean, either, because it'd have to be at a selectmen's meeting, so you're talking either 5 weeks away, or 6 weeks away, or 8 weeks away.
Yeah.
And that's, to sell anything, that's, you know.
So what do you think, like 8 weeks, you think, or?
I don't know, I don't sell things.
Well,
Just,
what I could do is talk to realtors and maybe ask them. or-
Talk to whom, sorry?
I
Realtors?
mean, maybe
to
a
get-
couple months, I mean, maybe it'll sell right away. I mean, and somebody doesn't want to wait that long, they want to buy it right, I don't know. But I don't know what the right length of time is. I just
Yeah.
wonder if that's too short, that's all.
Well, I do know this, I know that people are looking for houses and land in Mendon.
Well, right, that which is why it makes me think I'd rather have a competitive bidding process rather than just the first offer of 150.
Yeah, I don't know, I guess I was thinking that you would, since there are people that are looking and it's springtime, we would get it.
Right,
But,
you're probably right, but,
well, should I extend it by?
I mean, if we do the second meeting in June, I mean, that gives you almost 8 weeks, right? Or even if we said first meeting in July. We have
Yeah.
one meeting in July, so,
I mean, the thing also is that, you know, you could do the month, and then if you don't get offers that you want, you can reject all the offers, and then we could put it out again, because we've done most of the work for the RFP, so we would put the same RFP out and then put new dates on it.
you know, but realistically, if we see cash, right, we're gonna wanna accept an offer. So, I mean, it's,
So 5 second if you worked on that premise.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4.
I can't believe the amount of work you get done, Mrs. Mazar.
8. That gets you to June 22nd.
And June 22nd is what?
Friday.
It's a Friday.
So you are meeting, we're meeting on the 18th, I think.
It doesn't well,
Will have to be awarded too, right? Person's gonna wanna know that they're being awarded.
right, but you can open them, and you don't have to make a decision right away. You know, you can look at them and then 2 weeks
No,
later make a
if
decision.
a person is honestly waiting, just trying to decide between 2 lots, right? And the board needs to make the decision to officially move forward, they're not gonna wanna open them and then wait. I don't think they will. I mean,
So are you thinking like do the Thursday before a select board meeting?
exactly.
Okay.
So what's our first selectmen's meeting in
In
July?
July. I think I picked just one meeting date, and I think it
The
was the
9th?
16th. I
No,
just
16th.
something in the middle of the
16th,
month.
yeah, 16th.
So if you had it on the 12th of July,
Fine with that. You guys fine with that?
16th?
Yeah, I am, but wouldn't we be better off to just vote to authorize Ms. Newman to make that decision so that it can be made as quickly as any other seller?
I'm not sure that I can accept an offer like that of the sale of land without the board's.
Yeah,
Specific vote.
you're selling it.
Because it
Yeah,
could be
yeah.
200,000 or $80,000.
Yeah, I'm not worried about that. We're just trying to get the RFP set, because the motion is for the RFP.
Oh, I thought the issue was how fast we could meet.
Well,
No.
it is, it is, I mean, 'cause she's gonna post the RFP this week, and the question is, when do we anticipate a date of award notice? So, not to overly complicate it, I say wrap it up at the end of June, beginning of July, and do it, they just add a month on, essentially is what I'm asking.
Okay.
Without knowing anything at all about real estate.
So if that's it, then I would, so Kim, that being said, we were talking about we're meeting on the 16th, so we'll make it July 12th.
Yeah, yeah, right. So if the bids come in the 12th, award date possibly the 16th.
Okay, and so like, for the details from now on, then I'll just work with Kim. Like, you approve this and,
Yeah.
okay.
All right, so Mark, I'll take a motion.
I move to approve the RFP for the sale of the property at 15 Inman Hill Road.
Second.
Any further discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Good.
thank you.
You're welcome. It's nice to, sell this property because, the town could use the money. And the other thing too that someone pointed out to me is that when you get that money, you might want to assign it to something, like CapEx or whatever,
How about roads?
whatever.
Sure. You could also buy down some debt.
That's true, yes.
So, all right, great, thank you very much. All right.
No lack of things to spend it on, that's for sure.
That's for sure. Interview candidates and consider appointments to the Capital Planning Committee.
Oh, that's why you're here.
So
I'll be here with you.
should we flip a coin and see who goes first? We have two tonight. Mr. Byer, why don't you come on up?
Thank you, Patrice.
Interview us both together.
We could probably do both of them together, but,
I
yeah.
don't want to throw a kink in your plan.
Well, thank you very much.
Why not just talk to them both at dinner? You okay with it? Yeah.
Yeah, come on up, we'll do both together, I don't mind. Who wants to start?
Rich should
Well-
handle this.
You're gonna throw it all on me? Well, I'm already sold on the two gentlemen myself, to be honest with you. Obviously, Mr. Byer is well credentialed as the financial officer at the school. I assume your role involves managing CapEx as well as the operational expenses, right?
Yep, it is.
Is there anything you want to tell us about how that?
Well,
Works.
so, as you know, we're trying to establish a capital fund. Hopefully, we'll get an approval for that at town meeting, so we can start to put money aside. But part of my job is establishing the capital planning list for the school district, which I've done multiple times in the 9 years I've been there. What we do with that list is another story, but at least we have a list. So I do have some experience in assessing needs and putting a financial cost to those needs and prioritizing those needs to see what needs to get done first and last, and I think I could offer that to the town as well.
Awesome. And Mr. O'Brien, you had got my endorsement the last time we met, and when you were interviewing for the Finance Committee, and you had a heck of a resume. I commend you for all the work that you were doing over at Suffolk and involved with the capital projects over there, and so I really don't have any questions on that. Do you guys?
You know what I'd like to, I think the biggest challenge we're gonna have, right? Because if you remember now, the way we got to this point is we've had a kind of an on again, off again, fits and starts kind of a CapEx committee. And the main reason that's been the case is just because of the lack of funds, right? So we go through this whole process of prioritize and figure out what's there and whatever, and then just have nothing to spend it on. There's no need to meet. There's gotta be like a regular cadence that we get into, right? But the biggest challenge is gonna be prioritizing.
That's right. Well, not only prioritize them, but working closely with the FinCom and working closely with the Board of Selectmen and anticipating future revenues, and we should be focusing, any additional resources that we have to be able to start ticking off some of those capital needs that we have over the next, 10 years.
Well, I mean, like I said, I think first you have to have the list, and I believe there is a list that's been created. It probably needs to be
It has to
updated.
be dusted off.
But the next step is a
And there needs to be a
financial-
lot more detail in it too.
Right, but so part of that is identifying needs, identifying at least estimated costs, but then you need to develop a financial plan to actually fund some of those things.
Financial plan strategy.
And it may be that you don't get the money you need to do things. Maybe you try to knock things off, little things here, bigger things here. Maybe at some point the town needs to do a capital bond to attack some items, depending on where the town is with its debt. But that's all part of it, I would think.
Right, 100%.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, we're still not gonna be able to do everything. So I guess what I'd be interested in asking the two candidates is what do you think would go through your mind? Like how would you go about the thought process of prioritizing? What would be kind of the top priorities in your mind and why?
That's a good question. It's a great question. Well, for me, I don't have a lot of experience on the municipal side of the budgetary process. So I'm going to answer your question. For me, priority-wise is a learning experience. To learn the budgetary process from a municipal level. I've experienced it on the state level, working in the state senate with senators here from the Cape, but not from the town level. And I'm looking forward to having this experience to be able to do that and to get my hands dirty in the process.
That was a wise answer.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I would tell you that prioritizing it is not necessarily only the responsibility of the CapEx committee, but the departments that you speak to. So as an example, you go to the highway department and you say, what are your needs? Because maybe they have needs that we don't know about or aren't on that list. What are your priorities? What do you need now? What do you need in 5 years? You say the roof has to be replaced. Is it a 10-year roof or is it a 20-year roof? Or is it next week because you got buckets in there now catching the water? So you kind of get some feedback from all the various departments as to what their priorities are as well, and what needs to get done sooner rather than later.
That'll allow you to prioritize things in a department, but our job on the CapEx will be to prioritize between departments.
Yeah,
Well, that is the next step. But first, you got to find out what the department's priorities are.
Yeah.
Because my priority might be different.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is that what we're gonna identify quickly is roads, for example, should be a number one priority in our community. However, there might be, low-hanging fruit that we can afford right away that we might want to attack sooner than later because we could just afford it right now out of the chute. So there could be some low capital stuff because capital starts at 25 grand, right?
Well, to use the CapEx fund.
To use a CapEx fund, but yeah.
Well, yeah, because the low-hanging fruit, as you refer to, sometimes that's something that at the end of the year, you can say, look, we got
Yeah.
$10,000, and here's a $10,000 need.
Yeah.
Let's take care of that.
Yeah.
Who determines what the threshold is for using the CapEx account? Is that a state law?
That's by law.
That's by law.
By law.
25,000, yeah.
So, quite honestly, I would think that might need to be adjusted down so that you could use that money for things that maybe are even less than that. It doesn't mean you have
take it
to.
from regular stabilization, right?
The threshold for CapEx is set by the state.
Okay, that's what I was asking, so in that case.
Yes, right, that's right. yeah.
Right, so you don't have an option then.
Yeah, by law, not bylaw.
Yeah, right.
Sorry,
That's right.
if it was the bylaw.
Good catch, Mark.
Awesome.
Set a limit on how much we could actually transfer into the account through the long-range financial plan, I'm not sure which one. I think that's $100,000 or 125. We tried to put 150 in, and actually it was too much.
I'm not sure that
That's-
we're
I
at
think
risk of
it's-
having too much money to put in there.
I think
could
that's
be wrong
changed
there, but-
recently with the
Well,
modernization.
We would have had to have changed.
Yeah.
That
Oh,
was
is our
the
bylaw
least-
also set?
Yes.
We did try to put too much in one time. Because we're trying to target 3% of annual revenues.
Why is
as
there a
balance.
set on,
I don't know.
We set that.
why?
I don't know.
It was a long-range
It was
financial.
a long time ago. I wasn't around.
Kim, you had a question?
It's probably younger than that.
So Jay,
Yes, ma'am.
you know what question I'm gonna ask?
No, I don't. I'm gonna,
Okay,
That's
so-
good.
So even as much as I want to, I hope these gentlemen put you on this committee, and I really could use your expertise, particularly in this, for Massachusetts specifically. What is going to happen in a year when the school needs $100,000 for a capital project and the town also needs $100,000 for a capital project? How will you be best able to advise the board when you are also advising the school, and it's one pot of money?
right, so I would tell you that I think I'm fairly good at understanding where my priorities are. If I'm doing something for the town, I prioritize the town needs. Obviously, when I'm working for the school, I advocate for the school's needs. The school probably will be coming to the town sometime in the next 5 to 10 years for some type of capital bond to do certain things that just have to get done. But those are gonna be outside of using CapEx money as opposed to, say, a debt exclusion or a capital bond on the town side, because we don't have the money to do, you know, I don't know, what's the cost of doing all the roads? If you,
$700,000.
okay, so, you know.
For 10 years,
700,000 a year for 10 years.
for 10 years, above Chapter 90.
Right, so would you actually go to the town and say, well, we want to do a debt exclusion for 10 years of 7 million, 70 million? No, you probably wouldn't, but I think I
You
can,
might for equipment, I mean,
Right.
larger pieces of
Right.
equipment that we need.
but in answer to
Right.
your question, yes, I do think I'd be able to separate my allegiance depending
I'm
on where
certain
I'm
that you
sitting at.
can, but it's the most obvious question that needs to be.
And it is something that I question.
It can be conflicting, though, that's, I think that's
There is
the
a
point.
potential conflict, and then I'm the moderator, so I get up in front of the town meeting and get to like, have no opinion whatsoever. But I won't be the moderator forever.
Well, I can tell you that in my dealings with Mr. Byer, that there's been many times where we've had a conversation about what's happening, what we're doing, which direction we're going, and Jay will freely say, when the answer is better for the town and not the school, well, I really think that this is really the way we ought to go. I mean, he's very, very non-biased in that regard. I have absolutely no concern whatsoever in him maintaining objectivity in that case.
Just as long as he doesn't upset his boss.
Right.
I don't see that happening.
I'm too old to upset anybody at this point.
Has this process followed our policy?
I haven't been here.
There's no functioning committee to be able to recommend, really. So that's the only thing that hasn't been
Well,
involved.
in terms of the advertisement, I mean, that's been done in the past,
Well, we've
right?
been recruiting for over
Forever.
a year and a half. I mean, we.
I just had to
didn't-
ask the
didn't
question.
Specifically recruit, but when we did send out that email asking for candidates multiple times, CapEx has been on that list. We just have not received any interest for this, shockingly.
I mean, I didn't
In the last 2
like
years.
come up with this based on an ad. I was at a meeting, you
Right.
guys were
Right.
talking.
No, I know.
And I thought to myself,
We actually recruited you, yes,
And when I received the,
in Mr. O'Brien.
when I received the call from him, he said, I may regret this, but.
yeah. Well, if it's 3 nights a week for the rest of my life, then I might think twice, but,
We'll only make it 3 nights for the first 10 years.
for the first 10
Meetings
years.
are only in the summers, every week.
As long as they're outside, you know.
But we'll have to get a sense of when your
Yeah, sure.
schedule, best assuming that, before you leave the table.
And how many other open seats would we have, Kim?
I believe there's one.
One more?
Oh, there's still another one? I thought we had, oh, that's right, because I think, well, no. Mr. Chrisfield is still on at least for one more meeting.
Okay,
So if he decides to stay, then we have no openings.
okay.
Who else is already on the committee?
Myself, Norm Round, Mr. Chrisfield, and it would be the two of you gentlemen.
And
That's
the
a total of
committee.
5, and that's
Okay.
the size of the committee.
Mr. Byer?
Just because I'm looking at the website, was Norm Round reappointed?
Um,
Because his term expired in 2017.
Yeah,
This could be
I-
wrong.
I'm sorry?
This could be wrong, too.
It may or may not be, I don't know, all I know is I've double checked Mr. Round, so if it does need to be reappointed, he wants to continue.
I thought he was gonna sabotage me.
You're up. Dan, there's no mention on there of ex officio members, right? Because I remember the previous treasure collector was also appointed, but I don't know if she was personally appointed or because of her role.
I don't know. No, I vaguely feel like I was at a meeting that she wanted to be on it.
Personally.
Yeah. Because I think it's just 5 members. It was a special legislation.
Yeah, but it's not like the Taxation Aid Committee where whether the person lives in town or not, they're on the committee, you know what I mean?
Right, but
Okay.
there was a reason.
Okay. So Mark, I'll take a motion.
I move to appoint Jay Byer and Matthew O'Brien to the Capital Planning Committee for a term to expire on June 30th, 2019.
Okay, are we sure we have the expiration dates on those two correct?
I checked with Mark.
You did? Okay. Second.
Any further discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Welcome aboard, guys, and thank you very
Thanks.
much for your commitment.
So, days, times, preferences?
Well, I have school committee meetings on every other Monday, but not in the summer. So Mondays are usually not the greatest day.
Monday's gonna be good for me.
I'm pretty open for the summer.
Yeah.
realistically, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, sure. Days of the week?
I don't like
probably-
Fridays either, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm thinking Tuesday. Would Tuesday nights work for you guys?
Tuesday tentatively works for me, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe we'll
Does it
save it
have
to
to be a night?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I wouldn't want to say
You don't
that I
want him
was
cutting classes.
cutting out of
Well, I
my,
don't.
Gotta get my degree.
But sometimes these schedules are like, he could be free every Tuesday, Thursday night or something, depending on his schedule. So just,
I mean,
Yeah.
you probably have the most difficult schedule to work around.
Mhm.
So,
I mean,
let's-
I do have a 8 to 5 type of job, and I'm not sure I can just go away
Oh,
from
when
it.
when I think daytime, I think 5 o'clock.
Oh, okay.
So, right. It's still daylight.
I see.
Rather than 7:30 or 8 o'clock at night would be preferable. So let's just touch base about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alrighty,
Thanks, guys.
all right, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Appreciate you being willing.
All right. Have fun containing Mr. Schofield.
That would be
Piece
hard.
of cake. You guys have a lot more to do tonight?
Just a few more things,
Is there anything else?
yeah, discuss historic district commission. You okay?
Thank you, guys.
See you later.
So the board previously voted to establish, this is the historic district commission. You need to set a meeting date so that they can officially start the chairman with the reins. We were approached at the end of last meeting by one of the members about getting this.
That's right, and I'm technically the selectman representative on that committee, right, if I remember right?
Yeah, so
Oh,
pick
you
a date.
look jealous, you want it?
No, no,
Are
no.
you sure?
Yes, my bucket is full. But Mr. Schofield, you're the Energizer Bunny anyway, so
Give me my drum.
I would say keep on banging it. Since you're the selectman representative, do you have a date that you would like to recommend?
It doesn't matter to me, I think that a Tuesday night works good for me, so if people can do a Tuesday to start off, that'd be great.
So pick a day so we can send out an
Okay, so
invite.
let's see. Obviously, don't make it all about my schedule, so if those,
Well,
if
you
the other
have to be
guys.
there to orchestrate initially.
Understood, okay. I'm probably gonna need some input on how to do that, but anyway, so let's see, just checking my schedule now. Okay, I'm away the week of the 21st, so that won't work, of May, that is. So let's see. I don't know, the 7th or the 14th? No, sorry, those are Mondays. The 8th or the 15th? One of those two, let me just double check those. Yep, the 8th would work. And what's going on here, the 15th? Yeah, 8th or the 15th would work. Probably the 8th being better.
All right. So we will send out an email to all of those potential
Let's see what they say.
numbers for the 8th or the 15th. Let's see.
Anything else on that, Kim? Alrighty, and so other topics not reasonably anticipated within 48 hours prior to the meeting. So there is a item on here, it says discuss clear cutting around Lake Nipmuc. So this is where I'm at with this, guys. I will allow a little leniency to give some detail on this. However, I want to extend this conversation to a future meeting, and I'm more than happy to extend it to our next selectmen's meeting and invite individuals that this automatically directly impacts the opportunity to be heard as well at that time, okay?
Yeah.
So, since, Mr. Reel, you brought this up, why don't you just give us a little insight on what's going on, and then we'll go from there.
Sure. So over the weekend, it was brought to my attention that there was some significant tree cutting and vegetation cutting around Lake Nipmuc, specifically down where Nipmuc Drive, Park Street meets Route 16. So I went down there and I took a look at it, and it was quite extensive in what was done. So I reached out to the Conservation Commission to ask if what was done was, went through the process through the Conservation Commission that's set forth by the State Wetlands Protection Act and our Wetlands Protection Bylaw. The response I received was that it had not, and I had some concerns, and, if anyone drives by there, you'll see that, compared to what it was, has been drastically changed up to the water shoreline. So I was seeking some action from Conservation Commission, and I've yet to see it. It's not been much time, but I think that and I have reached out to DEP, asking them to take a good look at this issue as well. So I think without Concom here, we can't really have a conversation about it, but something needs to be discussed.
Okay, so if I understand you correctly, there's some concern about the work that's happening down there, and potentially the oversight from the Concom on the project, and we just want some clarification from them that things are being either done in are being done correctly within our bylaws or within Mass General Law or CMR jurisdictions, and we can give them an opportunity to clarify any questions that you may have on that. Okay, that's fair. So,
Do you think they're done, Mr. Reel,
With,
whatever they're doing down there?
I don't know, I mean, there's piles of wood chips, there is equipment, last time I was there. And I was told that the building inspector said they could chip stumps, they could grind stumps out, so I don't know if that's already been done, but.
I don't think he was acting in his capacity as building inspector.
All right,
I think he was
well,
acting in
he's-
his capacity as-
On Concom, but they told me that that the landowner spoke with the building commissioner.
what I would recommend is that we have Laura send the Conservation Commission chairman a letter requesting to have them come to our next selectmen's meeting to acknowledge our concerns. The concerns that were brought, I don't want to say our concerns, the concerns that were brought forward to the board, and that,
And my concern too.
okay. And we can discuss it at a future meeting date. Anything else on that? Okay.
You got a question?
Mr. Kent?
Did you say it was Pleasant Street, Main Route 16?
Right past Alicante, where the ballroom is,
Yeah.
when you turn onto Park Street, it's right there on the
Okay,
street.
it turns out the little street is actually
Nipmuc Drive, yep.
Okay. Okay, all right, so you'll take care of that, Laura? All right, thank you very much. All right, with that, looks like we have some executive session stuff. So I move to enter into executive session, purpose 3, Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on bargaining or litigation position of a public body and the chair so declares. Mendon Town Hall Union Local 272, Mendon Highway Department Union Local 272, Mass Coalition of Police Union, AFL-CIO Local 188, Mendon Police Civilian Dispatch Union, Local 188A, and Mendon Permanent Firefighters Union, Local 4936, IAFF. And Purpose 2, Executive Session, Purpose 2, Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, 21, Section A2, to conduct strategy session in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel, treasurer collector and library director, contract and town administrator evaluation. Roll call is needed and will only reconvene to adjourn.
Second?
Burke, aye?
Schofield, aye?
Real aye.
Thank you very much, everybody.